Creativity, craft, and career collide as Yellowstone costume designer Johnetta Boone and actress Cassie Scerbo share their paths to Hollywood and the lessons they learned along the way. A creative force with DC roots and a passion for storytelling, you've probably seen Johnetta Boone's work without even knowing it. The costume designer has worked on projects such as Steel Magnolias, Greenleaf, and Yellowstone starring Kevin Costner. We sat down to discuss the art of costume design and her message to those still finding their path. All right, so you're the costume designer for a great show, Yellowstone,
Yes.
Kevin Costner. How on earth did you get that role?
Well, actually, I inherited it.
Okay.
I inherited it. Ruth Carter did season 1.
And Ruth Carter, costume designer for Ryan Coogler's Black Panther and a lot of other things.
And the only one to have won an Oscar, Black
Yes,
female,
amazing.
in the history, 99 years of the Oscars.
Wow. Yeah.
Probably 100 years now.
Yeah,
but,
right.
So oftentimes what happens is a costume designer will start a project and then they will go off to do films or other things and they won't continue if it's a TV movie or series. And so generally that's how it happens in the industry, is that they'll pass the baton to another designer, and I was blessed to be in that position. Timing is everything. I was actually going to be going off to do another show and segued into doing Yellowstone, which was not the Yellowstone that we know today at the end of season 1, because it was just starting. So it was just a Western, a movie taking place in the West, talking about family priorities, legacies, and business, right?
Right. And it's a lot of drama in it, too.
A lot of drama.
A lot of drama.
Yes.
So wait, where do you draw your inspiration from to do the costumes?
Well, I actually draw my inspiration from the environment itself. And seeing that I'm from DC, and I actually rode horses here when I was in high school with many friends. So I had a bit of that introduction to the genre, to the lifestyle as a teenager. But then when I inherited Yellowstone as a TV show, what I did was I used the environment to pull from, and also many of our actors on the show, they're actually cowboys, working cowboys.
Really?
So I would lean to them to support what I was doing with that next level of authenticity, like dirt, for instance, or aging on clothing. Also with the color palette, Taylor Sheridan absolutely made sure that the color palette is always sunset colors. So I use that as my inspiration to build the world of Yellowstone in terms of character, cast, and costumes.
All right, so is it specific for, when you go into design, is it, okay, this is for Kevin Costner, this is for Taylor Sheridan? How does that work?
Well,
Or is it overall?
On a show like Yellowstone and also Greenleaf, I have a lot of actors and characters on camera at one time. So with Yellowstone, I've got 12 actors working at one time harmoniously together. So I have to make sure that their costumes also work harmoniously together. And they're all wearing the same thing, because like most cowboys, cowgirls, the same, you're wearing a hat, you're wearing a shirt, you're wearing jeans or work pants, and you're wearing cowboy boots. So how am I going to differentiate between each person? So each person has their own individual style, right? So every cowboy wears the absolute same uniform, but what distinguishes the difference? And it is the color of the hat, which is based a lot on your eye color, your skin tone, and your hair.
You give me some tips now. Okay, now I'm really going to pay attention when I watch. Okay,
all those things, right?
Okay.
And then how your brim is curled is all individually designed, how you put your hat on and off. So we do that. We also look at your color palette in terms of what it is that you're doing when you're working. So Kevin Costner owns the ranch, so he's not getting dirty every day. So his look is very different from the ranch hands. Rip's look is very different because he's the ranch manager. So he's very different from everyone else. No cowboy wears all black.
Okay.
He wears all black because he comes from a dark past. Like what's happened in his life almost has him in mourning his entire life, right? So we decided to keep him in tones and shades of black. They're not all the same, and people don't realize that, but his blacks have undertones of brown and green and blue, and that gives a difference and a depth of warmth and cool.
Wow, that's a lot to think about the next time I watch the show. So let's back up. How did you get into costume design when you were, younger, or when you first started?
Well, my mom was she was a fashion designer locally here in DC.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to sew when I was 12,
Wow.
or probably earlier. And when I first, when you're a kid and you learn how to sew, it was interesting because I was sewing things, and when I would make a mistake, I'd throw it in the trash. And my mom would go past the trash, pick it up, give it to me, and say, okay, just take it apart and do it again. Not mean or brash. Mm-hmm. She would just say, don't discard it like that. Just take it apart, do it again. So as a result, I do that a lot in life now. If I don't like something, I just keep going until it gets to the place. So fast forward, I am in junior high school at Kramer Junior High in DC, and a friend of mine at the time, a very dear friend, was going to audition at Ellington, and she asked me to come with her. Well, the only way I could go with her was to audition myself, to be right next to her as a support. So I found that out, and I said, well, I can't go unless I audition. So then I said, I'll just audition. And at the time, I was drawing, draw this character in the back of the book, right? And so lo and behold, I get accepted to Ellington, and she doesn't. Ooh. Which, of course, changed my life.
Right.
So I don't want to go to Ellington because it's a 2-hour bus ride. I'm in 8th grade. I don't want to be away from my friends. My mother got the acceptance letter because it came in the mail, and she said, oh my gosh, you're going to Ellington. And I was like, how? I didn't want to go to Ellington. And she said, you're going. Because this is in the 70s.
Right.
So when I got to Ellington, it was still Western.
Okay.
It hadn't even, and I didn't know enough. It's like I was a creative person, sort of, but I was a kid. And so, a young teenager, right? And she said, you're going. And it was a battle with myself because I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning every morning, which is nothing for you.
But still, for a kid, I understand.
For a kid, and take a 2-hour bus ride to school every morning.
Where were you coming from? What area of D.C.?
From Southeast.
Southeast,
from Anacostia, just above Anacostia.
Right.
Taking that 32 or 34 all the way through D.C. This is pre-subway.
Yes.
Up to school every single morning, 5 days a week. And then I didn't get out of school till 3 o'clock. So then it was a 2-hour bus ride back. Well, my first week of school, and by then I was very proficient with sewing, so I was making pencil skirts and I was wearing heels. I mean, when I got to high school, I was fly, right? I go to my sculpture class and my teacher said, where are you going? I said, it's the first week of school. I said, I'm coming to class. He said, not like that. You're going to get plaster all over you. When you come to school tomorrow, have something else on. So I changed my clothes. I took some coveralls or something, and that was history. I mean, the rest is history. My entire life changed. So there was no costume design program then. But there was a fashion design teacher, Herman Wilson, who's not with us anymore. But I went into that fashion design class with him and learned that. And then when I graduated from Ellington, I went to FIT because there was still no costume design program for film and television. And I didn't know that that's even what I wanted to do. I fantasized about it, but I didn't realize it. And so I went to New York to go to FIT, and I studied merchandising and design. And then I segued into styling, and then from that into television. And then I made my way back to DC when I gave birth to my oldest son because I wanted to be closer to home,
right?
So he could have family around. And that's when I entered into the film industry, believe it or not.
That is quite a journey.
Yeah,
quite a journey. Do you remember what your first paid gig was for costume design or costumes or outfits?
Yes, so my first paid film was The Great Buck Howard with John Malkovich and Colin Hanks and Tom Hanks.
Okay. Where'd you go after that? I know I don't want you to name them all, but
I did the Jane Austen Book Club. So my career is very diverse. It's not in one particular ethnicity or genre or the other. And then from there, it went on to Cadillac Records.
With Beyonce, if y'all are, yeah.
Yeah. And then it was great. I did Uncle Drew, which was fantastic. And then from there, many things in between, but that led me to do
we talked about Greenleaf.
Yes, with Oprah and Lynn Whitfield, and they're fantastic.
My
It
buddy
was like
Lamont
one
Rucker.
family, and Lamont Rucker, exactly.
Who was also Duke Ellington.
Yes, he was a Duke Ellington graduate
Yes.
as well. I mean, Duke Ellington has really churned out some incredible talents. I mean, Dave Chappelle went there. You know, Debbie Allen, of course, you know, was one of the leading mentors at Ellington. It was a fantastic place to be.
Right. And that shaped you, and that being at Duke Ellington and being here in DC shaped you as far as the mindset for creating all these different costumes and these different genres.
Absolutely. I would say that being in DC, I was a whale in a pond. Because coming from New York with my skill set, everything, I had been in New York for decades in the fashion industry, building a career. I was at the height of my career when I left. People thought I was crazy, but I left because family comes first. And then when I got here, my first project as an assistant costume designer was with Albert Walsky on Runaway Bride. That was a huge movie, you know, and then he shared, you know, my talents and gifts with other designers, with his colleagues, and said, when you go to DC, look up this young woman. She's amazing. And then they all took me under their wings and then sculpted my career. I learned so much from them. And then that's how I was able to then move on, because I learned from the absolute best. Colleen Atwood. I mean, everyone that I've worked for, they've won multiple Oscars, not just one.
Right. What's next for you? I mean, you've done some incredible projects,
Yes.
and I'm sure there's more to come. What's next for you that you can talk about? Because I know how Hollywood works.
Right.
Sometimes it's, shh, you can't say that until
Yeah.
we do a trailer.
Yeah, there's a shush. You can't say that until we do a trailer. But, you know, of course, I will stay in. I still live here. So it's wonderful to be able to go off and make entertainment and dive into that world and then come back. And then I'm also, I actually picked up the paintbrushes because I was in visual arts in Ellington, so I do art as well.
Really?
So I'm doing mixed media art. Once again, I had picked it up. I picked up the paintbrushes when I was on Greenleaf, and one of the mixed media pictures that I did, they loved it so much. It was 11 by 14. They blew it up to 2 by 3 feet and made it into a canvas and put it on the wall in Zora's new house. So I said, okay, let me just keep going with that. So that's what I've been doing also lately. And I had a couple of gallery exhibits. So it's just, yeah.
How do you have time for all of this?
I know.
How do you manage all this? Making all these costumes and all these big shows, and then doing the galleries as well, and then you still, you got your son working for you, so that's a little bit of a, at least he's bringing in some money.
Yeah. Well, he's on another show right now, actually in Chicago, and then we have a younger son as well, and he's in college. So this time, when I'm not on a film project, gives me time to be with my younger son. He's playing golf for Virginia Union, so I get to go down and see his golf tournaments and do all the things that I don't get to do when I'm traveling, because I've been traveling nonstop for 7 years.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Like nonstop.
But it's still good though. It's still good. That means you're working.
Yes.
So that's always good to keep working.
Yes.
All right. So if there's some words of encouragement that you would give to someone who is out there on a journey, it doesn't matter what journey it's on, but if there's some words of encouragement you would give to them, what would that be?
It would be persistent, stay consistent, and also be intentional. And most importantly, I was mentioning this to someone that I was speaking with earlier, you are a brand. What is your brand? And how are you representing the brand that you are? Regardless of who you work for, you're still a brand. And that's probably the most valuable token of all, is what is your brand?
Right.
And what are you representing?
Okay.
And then that drives everything else.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Also, before I let you go,
Yes.
you have on some of your gear right now.
Yes, I
What do you
do.
have on that's yours that you would?
So Paramount Studios was so pleased with the work that I did on Yellowstone that they asked me to design a collection inspired by the costumes that I created for the characters. And so Ariat, which is a very well-known equine brand, they produced the collection because they already have the fabrics and the materials and everything to do so. So these are the jeans for my collection.
Okay.
And this is actually the shirt for my collection.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I did dark denim, which is not typically seen in the Western culture. They're doing dark denim now. But we also did hats and a couple of jackets, and we did both men's and women's wear.
Wow. Okay. Impressive. So fashion, On the set, fashion
Yeah.
off the set
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
All right. Okay. That's pretty impressive. Oh wait, they're getting a shot of your jeans. You have to show. You have to fashion. You have to model your jeans.
Well, look, they're high-waisted, which is really great.
Okay.
You know.
Modeling the jeans. Okay. Now
you
you're
know,
a model on the side as well.
It has a little bit of give, which is nice. You know,
Yes.
it's good to have a little Lycra so you have some room
Right.
to move when you're moving around fast. And then the shirt as well. So it's one
Right.
piece. It's called a Canadian tuxedo when you wear all denim at once.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I learned so much from you, just from having a conversation with you right now.
Yes,
Well, thank you
yes.
so much for
Thank
spending
you,
time
Wisdom.
here. I appreciate it, and continued success.
Yes.
And you're always welcome to come back and talk to us and have a conversation about what you're doing next.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be
Well,
here.
thank you. Thank you.
An absolute honor.
Yes.
And I would love to come back, be invited back.
Absolutely, you will.
right.
Open invitation. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. From a sci-fi cult classic called Sharknado to a Western period, we caught up with actress Cassie Scerbo in a conversation that goes well beyond the screen. The actress shared details of her new project and how playing a bully led her to advocacy and what small change helped skyrocket Sharknado's success. You're in a new movie, The Wolf and the Lamb.
Yes.
Tell me about that project and why you decided to get involved in it.
Yes. The Wolf and the Lamb is a Western thriller, takes place in the 1800s. I've always wanted to do a period piece, but I actually came on in the beginning just as a producer. I wanted to really continue to learn the ropes of producing. It's something that's always fascinated me. And they had no intention for booking me as Joe, as the lead. I mean, that was not even in the cards at first, which is kind of funny, not at all. And I was like, can I at least get to play like one of these fun little extras? You know, I've always wanted to do a period piece. And it's a really long story, but to keep it short, they decided to take a chance on me. These are people, Lunar Door, the production company. These are people who I've known for years, really dear friends of mine. And they're like, let's just give her a shot, let her meet the director and just see what happens. This is not a yes. So I sat down with the director via Zoom, and we had about a 3-hour conversation. I felt like I was talking to a therapist. I mean, I unloaded everything, and I found out afterwards that about 15 minutes in, he had texted the rest of the producers and said, Cassie's Joe, like she deserves this chance. And it meant the world to me because, you know, for so long I've been trying to get out of certain boxes. I feel like I've been stuck in and, you know, certain stereotypes. So I fell to my knees when I found out that they actually were considering me for this character, because it's a very challenging role. It's the first time I'm playing a mother. This was like my prove me moment. Okay. So every day I went to set, I would tell my husband, who's also an executive producer on this. We have a production company called One of One. I would tell him, this is like every day, this is just my prove me moment, mainly to myself, but also to anyone who's ever told me no, you know, or didn't believe that I can take on different roles. And as an actor, like, you don't want to go to set every day and play Cassie Scerbo, right? You want to play characters that are so foreign to who you are. And a woman from the late 1800s, a mother, I'm not a mother yet, I am to a precious dog, but just playing this mother, playing this woman in the 1800s was such a challenge, and obviously so different than who I am. And that's what excites me about taking on a role, is playing anything that is the furthest away from who I am.
Having said all that, I love Sharknado. I love you in Sharknado.
You too.
I'm just saying.
It's not, come on, it's Sharknado. It's sharks out of the sky.
What was that whole experience like? Did you just buy into it immediately?
I love this question. It's been a while since I got to dive into some Sharknado chat. It was just so fun for me, but I didn't expect, you know, everyone was just like, what is this? Sharknado? Like, huh? And I remember when our director, Anthony Ferrante, came up to us one day at lunch. I was sitting with Ian Ziering and Tara Reid, great friends of mine. And he's like, so guys, we're thinking of changing the title to Sharknado. And we're like, we're going to be on IMDb under something named Sharknado? Like, what? This sounds so silly, but it worked. And that's the beauty of the industry. You never know what's going to work. And I would tell people back in the day, like, it actually was one of the most challenging roles, because we've all dealt with, you know, maybe grief of some sort, or a breakup, or You have moments when you break down, or you're dealing with a death in your family or whatnot, but no one's really dealt with sharks falling out of the sky. So as an actor, you're like, how do I portray this, or how do I make this seem realistic in any fashion? And we would oftentimes, lots of it was green screen, and we'd be getting these little neon stickers as our eye lines, and it would just be like 3, 2, 1 action, and we'd have to stare at this neon pink sticker and envision sharks blowing up in tornadoes, and you're like, that's actually really difficult. Like, what would my reaction be to this? Because this is bizarre. So I always tell people, as silly as the franchise is, and it's meant to be, and it's obviously campy and culty and has a wonderful fan base that I am so grateful for, it was actually really challenging.
But I want to switch gears and talk about your advocacy, because you're not just acting, you're putting in work outside of the screen. You're involved in anti-bullying campaigns, in mental health. You have a lot going on. Tell me a little bit about what inspired you to do these things and some of the things that you're involved in outside of the whole Hollywood, being in front of the camera and being behind the camera,
Absolutely.
actually making a difference outside of that world.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so important for anyone with a platform to advocate for causes that really hit home for you, and especially the industry that we're in and the world we're in today, right? But mental health has been on the rise. It is so important that we address it and that we allow people to understand that they're not alone. I think that when we isolate ourselves and we don't talk about it and we're not opening up these conversations, that's when things can go really sideways for people. It's about connecting. And I've always just loved connecting with people. That's why I'm an actor, but I always felt like it was my duty to give back if I have a platform. And even prior to that, philanthropy has just always been something I loved. I also played a bully on Make It or Break It, and that was something that made me really intrigued when I got approached by Boo to Bullying, which I serve as vice president, and I'm on their board. I've been involved. I've been their vice president since age 25. I'm aging myself, but 10 years now. And I've been involved since age 20, so about 15 years now. And when they came to me, it was so interesting because playing the bully, I noticed misery needs company. And a lot of times hurt people hurt people. And that was my character. She had lots of layers. Of course, I'm going to stand up for Lauren Tanner on Make It or Break It, although she had a lot of haters in the beginning. She did come around, but that to me was like, it showed me bullying from a different lens, because growing up, I dealt with bullying on the opposite end of things. Girls can be catty and in high school and whatnot, and just people in general. Like, we all have our things and go through our challenges in life. But it was when I was playing that role that I was like, oh, now I'm seeing the other end of the spectrum and why people lash out and do this. And I don't want to just open up these conversations with people who are being bullied. Of course, that's very important, but I want to talk to the bullies, right? It's like, why are you doing this? What's really going on? Because so many people, everyone is facing battles that you don't know. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors and what's happening inside someone else's world. So that's kind of where it began. And it just took off for me. It felt so gratifying to do this work, to speak to kids, to go into these schools. We've served hundreds of thousands of kids via in person and online. And there's nothing like that feeling. Like, yes, stepping onto a set it's my favorite place in the world. I always say, like, I'm at home when I'm on set, but my passion for acting and for the arts drove me to my purpose. And that is to advocate for those who don't have a voice or feel like they don't have a voice.
At Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School,
I did.
you were not there when the shooting happened, but that is your alma mater from high school. How did that impact you moving forward with your life? Because I know you're an advocate and you're still out here working, but that was your school, that was your community before all of this started. So how did that shooting impact your life?
I feel the emotions coming up.
Yeah.
It was obviously very hard. This didn't just hit close to home. This hit home. This was my home. These were the hallways that shaped me, right? And I knew some of the victims, or at least one of the teachers and one of the students. And I just remember hearing about this, and I was about to take off to Romania to shoot Sharknado 6. And it was the worst feeling in the world, knowing that I had to fly so far away from my hometown when all I wanted to do was be in Parkland, Florida, and like just hug and squeeze every single person, which every single person in our community was affected. But I just wanted to be there to advocate for every single person. So I did this little online video campaign, and I was doing everything I could from afar while filming. You know, the second they called cut, I was back in my trailer or in my hotel room trying to piece together this campaign to bring awareness, to create change. And then I got this opportunity to, that was actually my first producing opportunity, to executive produce a documentary called Code Red Youth of the Nation, which is out now. And it's been out for a while, actually, a couple years now. And sadly, it's still prevalent. I mean, look what just happened at Brown. And there's just been so many school shootings in this country. It tears me apart every single time. But I do feel like our documentary, it's not just a retelling of stories. It is, or of the story of that day, that tragic day on February 14th, 2018, but it is very solution-based. It's broken down into 11 steps, and it really teaches the viewer what went wrong that day and what we still need to change. You know, I'm extremely passionate about safer schools, and I will walk to the end of the earth doing what I can to just, you know, try to make that change. And you know, enough is enough. And we keep saying this and saying this and saying this, but I hope the more eyes we can get on this documentary, the more, you know, I can do behind the scenes as well in my own world with philanthropy and advocacy and activism. I just hope that we can get there. You know, every single time this pops up on the news, which is way too often, my heart just breaks again and again, over again, into pieces and pieces. But it still is one of the most difficult memories and experiences.
I appreciate your advocacy. I appreciate everything that you're doing
Thank you.
outside of the Hollywood.
Two women, two powerful perspectives, and two true moments of wisdom. I'm Wisdom Martin, and you can catch me weekday mornings on WSA 9 Mornings starting at 4:30 a.m.